And sometimes people sort of like think that they can ask quite personal questions about Chris, as if
he's not
he
there.
doesn't know what's going on, and that's quite difficult as well. So,
yes, good. Yeah, thank you for that lovely testimony, Claire. I mean, obviously, I live in Southampton as well. I'm aware of which church it is you've been to. But I think what you've done is absolutely right, and this is what I would say. Some churches, for whatever reason, don't seem to, it doesn't fit well or doesn't work, and you do. When in Southampton, we're very privileged. We've got a huge host of churches, both large and small, all of which I would say are very good. But you have to find something, some church which actually fits you and where your situation fits. And you're absolutely right. And I'm really pleased that you found the support that you do. And people, and again, I think you need to perhaps educate people. Some it's part of your job to tell them what's going on and what it's like, because I think a lot of people are ignorant, and that's what we found, that people have positive hearts but actually sometimes just don't know what to do.
It is totally sort of ignorance of, I suppose, because they see a disability and they presume you can make a lot of presumptions around that.
That's right.
And that's understandable, because people don't know. From looking at my son, he is profoundly disabled. They don't know how much he understands, so they do sort of tend to ask me first, but I do sort of point them towards him and say, well, you know, he doesn't speak, but he can communicate with you, and I sort of try and teach them through that way. But I believe that God's given me a great job of communicating to other people.
Wonderful.
He's led me into a path that I would never have dreamt of choosing. But I've been able to meet with so many people because of it.
Praise God.
And you know, praise God, He uses me in that way. And
Wonderful.
I don't see it. Sometimes the way I try and describe it to people is actually I feel more disabled than Chris, because I believe that God speaks straight to his spirit and He lights up a room when he's in it. And I'm the one that struggles with everything else. But he lifts me up. He lifts me up and keeps me going. So
I think I think the two things that really blessed me with that. I mean, number one, such a tragedy in your family could have actually turned you totally away from God. But what was found so thrilling in your testimony, it was that many of the people that were helping you were Christians, and I think that's a great testimony. And you saw in their life, even though, as you say, and it is perfectly natural, you struggle with the why, you struggle with the how, you struggle with what's going on, but you came through to know the Lord. The other thing I would like to underline for people is the other thing that you brought up there is that you do have needs. The carer does have needs. And I think it's something we haven't actually touched on yet today. We've been talking about those with disabilities, but if those ones with disabilities are of such a condition they need a carer, the carer also needs that input of the Lord, and I think that's a point that we should really underline.
I've joined a group. It's a nationwide group. I'm not sure how far it goes, but it's the Christian Carers Fellowship.
That's right.
And we're actually meeting tomorrow together, and we sort of we do get looked after. You know, we're all carers. We all understand where we're all coming from. The ages are like, from my age, I'm a young 38, and then you get to even younger 83. You know, it goes from one extreme to the other, but it doesn't matter, because we all support each other, and we all have the same love of God. And, you know, and we know the strength that He gives us.
Amazing.
So
Praise God.
One of the things that you are involved in is providing homes for people with these. Is that, I mean, that may not be for everybody, but for some people, I suspect it's really great for them to have their independence.
Well, I think what happens is that when somebody's young and they're growing up, then often the mum and dad become the chief carers, and etc. But what happens when they get older, and the person that, well, sometimes mum and dad continue to be the chief carer, and that's right for them. But other times, for numerous reasons, either from the family point of view or from the individual, they want to be independent. They want to have their own place. They want to live independently. And up to a few years ago, the only real option was either you went into an institution, a care home, or you stayed at home. and the family looked after you. But now, over the last sort of 10 years, has developed the sort of domiciliary care model. That is where you live in a house, an ordinary street, with usually with 2 or 3 friends or people similar to yourself, and care is delivered into the home. In the case of my daughter, she needs 24-hour support and care. Someone has to sleep in at night because she's not safe living on her own. And this other people are quite safe, but they need a bit of help with the money, finances, maybe a bit of hygiene issues. And what has happened is that we now have a much more flexible model. It's not just in the Christian church, but obviously in secular society. And people have a lot more independence. And I think there's a lot more tolerance out there, although there are always lots of stories of intolerance. So what we do is, for Christians who want to supply a Christian home, one of the things we were faced with as a family, my daughter wanted to leave home and to move into her own home. She'd got to the age of 22, 23, and so what do you do? And one of the things I know that is very important for people with learning disabilities, she's very vulnerable to the environment she lives in.
Right.
So if you live, because of her disabilities, finds it incredibly difficult to stand up and say no, or they usually say, if you ask someone with severe learning disability the question, do you want to go to McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken or Burger King, you know what they will always answer, and that is Burger King. Why? Because it's the last one they heard, or the one that they've always been to in the past. Yeah. The ability to make a genuine choice isn't there. So the environment and how they're talked to and related to is very important. And we wanted to ensure that our daughter had a Christian environment where staff were quite happy to take her to church or help her with her spiritual life as much as help in a normal life. And so that's why one of the things we did was set up, we got a normal house, we bought a normal house, that's where I started. And then got a group of Christian families. Most of them in ours, they came from church backgrounds, moved in together, and then Prospects organised the staff, and we had to negotiate with social services to fund it.
Right.
And I can tell you, it's not easy to do that, but I do know how to do that. And we've enabled a numbers of groups of families, either directly or indirectly, because sometimes we're not the provider of the house. They set up their own charity or their own trust, or they use a housing association who puts the building together, and then Prospects will then put the staff together, and you have to put it all together. So you end up with this is their home in their environment until they choose to leave. Mm-hmm. And that's part of what we do.
And I think you mainly work obviously in the Southampton area.
Well, we're in the south.
Yeah, in the south. But are there other groups, similar groups, that do this sort of thing countrywide or not?
Well, Prospects is the only organisation that's the only one I will work with, because predominantly they employ Christian staff.
Yes.
I don't know whether exclusively, but because of all the employment issues, but predominantly they're Christians, and certainly they encourage this whole person Christian approach, and that's what they do. And people choose to have them do the caring because of that approach. And it is nationwide, but predominantly it's in the south. Yeah.
And you obviously yours has been a business area, and a fair amount of money has to be put into it, Razor. Some churches don't have that sort of money, don't have that sort of ability. What can they do to help these people? What are the basic things that all church leadership should really be considering? They may not have people in need at the moment, but I suspect, as you say, there are many out there. Maybe people just at that point don't want to come to church. What should church leaders be considering and seeking to put into operation that's available for such folks?
Yes. Well, I think that obviously you care for the people you have in the church, and so I think it is being aware. I mean, what church leaders need to do, that these people do need some extra help and have extra needs, as we've already heard, that some people need transport needs and other people need, understanding that they have to sit on the floor rather than the chairs, and it is a lot more tolerant.